Good morning, everyone. This is Abhay here, and if you can hear me, can somebody please write yes or something so that I know I'm audible in the chat? One of you, yes, yes. Thank you, Vipul, Snehil, Rhythm. Thank you. So great that I'm audible. Welcome all. We've got Shalini already with us. So we all know that today we are here to talk about economics as an optional for UPSC Civil Service exam. And we have been having these sessions on a daily basis on different subjects. We've already had mathematics and political science and sociology. Now economics, I don't have to tell you much because I don't know much myself. But in civil services exam, it's not that popular and optional. As we can see here, Shalini, we have got 20 people roughly right now. Yeah, it's exactly 20. Though people come in and join whenever they feel like. But when I had sociology and political science, it was overflowing. It was going beyond the limit of Google Meet, which is like 100 people. So, it was always constantly 100 and many people could not join. And I was also looking at, the statistics of UPSC exam for economics. So I thought I'll just begin by sharing that. It's one of the lesser popular subjects, even though we have got even rank one with economics. It's not an unusual subject that you don't see. So 2017 is the latest statistics UPSC has released, and in the mains exam, total 13,000 aspirants wrote the mains exam, out of which 233 only, which is about 1.2% of the aspirants were with economics optional. And though the success has been rate has been much better, it's one of the better subjects in terms of people qualifying also with the subject. And in fact, we have also examples earlier like Gaurav Agarwal. They got rank one without having economics as a background in terms of their bachelor's or master's. He was an MBA, of course. Shalini is a deputy director. She is Indian Economic Service officer, a deputy director at Cabinet Secretariat, and a very dear colleague. So I'll not take any more time. Shalini, over to you. How will
Thank
do
you,
this?
thank,
Yeah, Shalini.
thank
So
you. Abhay.
how? Just
I hope I'm audible.
yes, you are audible. Just quickly for everybody, we'll first allow Shalini to discuss her ideas, her analysis of the syllabus, question papers, whatever, for about 20 minutes till let's say 10:30 or so, and then we'll open up for questions. When I'll just intervene and moderate. I want people to interact directly with Shalini, so I'll request not type in your question, speak out. But if there are issues, then you can type in as well. So Shalini, over to you. It's
Yeah.
your platform now.
Thank you, Abhay. Thank you for making me do this. So, thank you. And in fact, I think I'm feeling a little nostalgic right now, and I'm also feeling a little different because I'm on the other side of the camera this side because mostly I've been asking these questions. Now I'm answering these questions. Hello. So I think that since there are very less number of people, I can take this opportunity just to get a sense of what kind of audience I have today. So some of you, the kind of questions that Abhay has shared with me, as I understand, some of you do not have economics background. So is that correct? I mean, can somebody confirm that? Or all of you have done your economics sometime?
So anybody who doesn't have economics background, maybe they can just type in.
There are people who have done masters in economics also. So yeah, good. So I'm going to have my session in terms. I'm taking care of everything into account because there may be people who have zero economics background and also people who have good economics background, so they know all the readings and stuff. So taking into consideration that I have a varied background students and uh, wherever required, I think you can stop me. You can ask me questions. Feel free to make myself repeat. And whatever I'm saying today, you don't need to follow 100%. As I understand, there are some people who are going to be writing civils this year with economics as an optional. That's what Abhay has told me. And some people might be having a more long run or a medium term strategy in terms of you may be writing it next year, not exactly this year. So you need to understand that what you can do quickly and what you can do in a long run. So I'll focus on both the things. I'm not going to repeat too much in terms of what the exam pattern is. There are two papers, 250 marks each. There's certain specific economics topic that are covered in this exam. The pattern of this exam is very different from the Indian Economic Service. So, if any one of you are writing IAS also simultaneously, so the approach in civils is going to be very different from the approach in the IAS exam. And in terms of my analysis of the paper, I think I found some low hanging topics, some topics that you can really focus on and get some good marks. And uh, for people who are actually who will be writing civils this year, my personal suggestion would be do not change your strategy right now, because it's too late for you to switch books or start with new books. But what you can do is whichever topics you're finding it more difficult to deal with, so we can have a specific discussion on those topics, or you can take guidance of your other colleagues on those topics particularly, so that you understand as to what you want to, which book you can refer to, or what exactly you can read in terms of exam patterns. Otherwise, if you are I think one of you have asked me questions about whether you should go for economics as an optional if you do not have an economics background. So my suggestion personally would be you can go for it, and that two, three major reasons for that. One is a lot of topics that you're going to do in economic optionals is also common in terms of your GS preparation, and also those topics you would be requiring in your interview. So a lot of interactive questions that you'll be dealing with in interview, I think you can really enrich your answers and your responses during the interview if you have some knowledge of economics as a background. So that will really help you. So some of I think about 50% of the economic optional course is something that you will be anyway reading in general for your GS. So it'll automatically get covered. So while you are doing your economics optional, you are actually re-emphasizing and preparing for your GS and for interview also simultaneously. So that really helps. And in terms of the paper being a little reading heavy, so that's true. There's a lot of reading that would be involved in economics, and that's not, there's no running away from that. You will have to read a lot of books. Some of you have asked me suggestions about what all books you can refer to. I'll share some of my suggestions for different topic wise suggestions of books. But apart from that, I think there are two kinds of approaches that you can have in terms of preparation. One is a standard textbook approach, and that will really help you uh, in terms of answering your questions, because a lot of these questions that are asked in your previous year questions are directly from these standard textbooks. So international trade, Salvatore is one of the book that I mean, directly they pick up questions from Salvatore, they pick up the boxes from Salvatore, and they give you a question. So if you have read these textbooks, standard textbooks will really help you in terms of understanding which question, which textbook it belongs to, and you can directly answer. But if you're finding it difficult to read these textbooks, because a lot of these books are foreign author books, and not very easy to read, so there you can refer to the Indian authors. You can have some sense of what the topic is actually talking about. You can read these Indian authors and then go back to your standard textbooks and reread what is supposed to be done. So running away is not a problem. So reading has to be done. Even though you read notes and everything, I think books have to be referred to at all points of time. Uh, but you don't need to read these books cover to cover at all. In So if it's micro or if it's macro, international trade, or if it's public finance, or if it's Indian eco, you don't have to read these books completely. Economics textbooks are not written in a way that takes care of all the topics in one book at one go. So you have to, for certain topics, refer to some other microeconomics textbooks. For some other microeconomics topics, you will have to refer to some other textbook. So I think you will have to make a balance of topic-wise reading list and not really a book for a particular topic. So that has to be taken into care. And there's too much information available online. It was not available when I was preparing for my exams. Right now, I the kind of suggestions and the kind of notes, Indian eco stuff that is available online, I think you have to choose smartly. Otherwise, you will always be stuck in terms of reading too much for a topic which is not even required. So you have to draw a line in terms of what is required to be done in a topic. Once you've done that, just move on. Do not get stuck in that topic by reading more and more textbooks, and do not get bogged down by what others are doing. So if everybody else is doing 10 other books for that topic, do not go for that. Once you've understood the topic, draw a line, stop. So whatever is required for the entrance exams is not too much. You're not here to do a PhD thesis on those topics. So you have to take into consideration that part. And uh, kicking off studies, kicking off your preparation for economics is a little difficult because certain topics are tricky to start with. Macroeconomics, for example, if you do not have a background in economics, you may find it a little difficult to deal with these topics initially. So, pick up small topics which are easier to understand, which you are comfortable with, and which overlap with your CS. So let's focus on easy topics, build some morale, and once you are a little comfortable in those topics, I think then you can proceed to relatively tough topics, and you can then go about reading complicated books which are required for the entrance exam. Um, I think some of you have spoken about topics being difficult. My suggestion would still be the same. Read from the Indian author books; they're easy to understand. Uh, once you understand the concept, then go back to your standard textbooks and read it again. Then you'll find it very easy to read. So that tip I think really worked for me also, and that you can follow. Um, Also, some of the low hanging topics I'll just be suggesting. I'll have a topic by topic. I have some list available. So topic by topic, I'll be suggesting some books and that you can um, perform. Okay, in terms of writing, in terms of getting more marks in how to write your answers and how to get more marks in civils. So I think you have to be very careful in terms of the paper pattern. Spend some time in choosing the question that you need to answer. It will always happen that you are more comfortable in one or two questions, but the third part of that question is not very comfortable to you. So there'll be always a dilemma in between in terms of what topic you should choose, what question you should choose in the question paper, and what you should not. But once you start writing, you do not have enough time to go back, cutting your questions and moving to another question. So you will not have enough time. So I think spend some time, 1 or 2 minutes initially, to choose what you want to actually which question you actually want to answer. And once you know that these are the 5 questions that total you are going to focus on, then don't look for other questions. Do not even bother about checking the other questions. Once you've decided that these are the 5 questions I want to answer, then just look at those 5 questions and then accordingly attempt your question paper. Always write smartly. There is a specific word limit to each question. For the 10-mark question, I think they've specifically mentioned 150 words. Do not go beyond 150 words. Let me be very frank, the moment you start overflowing your answers beyond that, you will not be able to complete your answer sheet. Your target, I think 2.5 hours is enough for the question paper if you know all answers. 2.5 hours, your question paper should be over by 2.5 hours. The remaining half an hour is only for those tricky questions where you need to think and write, and maybe you may need to draw some diagrams and you're not very sure of some graphs. So 2.5 hours is your target, and these papers are doable in 2.5 hours. I mean, all the papers that I have written so far, I was able to conveniently complete my answer sheet in 2.5 hours for whatever questions I knew. For the tricky ones, I always used to have these buffer in place so that you can think and rethink and then write smartly. So always think about what you're going to write, because in economics you're going to uh, you've read too much. You've read a lot of things. You've read for a particular topic. You may have read 80 pages of a textbook. You're not here to reproduce those 80 pages in your answer sheets. So what you need to just focus on what exactly they're asking and what exactly you can answer so that you can, look smart to the examiner. So he must understand that you know the topic. He must understand that you are aware of the topic, and that topic is clear to you. So those kinds of things. And there are certain tips that you can use in terms of attracting the examiner to your question paper. So certain things that he will immediately know that you know the answer. So if you draw a graph and your graph is perfect, so there are high chances that you're going to get full marks if your graph is correct. Even if your explanation is not very strong, or if your explanation is you were short of time and you could not complete your answer, but your graph is perfect. So you're going to get good marks in that, because the examiner will know that you are aware of the concept. But if you do not know how to draw a graph, do not draw wrong graphs. I mean, it'll really cut your marks through. If you're not comfortable in graphs, and if you're not comfortable in tables, do not draw them. Focus more on the writing part. It's not that without the graph they're going to cut marks for that. It will add value to your answer, but even an answer without a graph will make sense, and you can get marks. Um, Add examples to your answers. So in some cases, you will have an opportunity to add real life examples. In markets also, you can, if there are specific instances, if there are questions about tariffs, or if there are questions about two-part pricing, so you can mention about electricity sector. So look for real life examples where you think that a particular model or that particular theory applies. Write those models that also add value to your answer, so that will really help in terms of getting marks. um, in paper 2 particularly, you can write about critical events that have happened in the past. So if the question is about land reforms, so you can talk about how the land reform policy has improved, how it has changed pre-independence, post-independence, what is the current state of scenario. So add those critical events. Or if you're talking about manufacturing policy, so you will have to talk about liberalization and how it impacted. So look for those critical events. If you mention those critical events in your answer, I think that really going to make difference. Even if that part is not asked in the question, just a passing reference in your sentence will make the examiner aware that you are aware of this particular part, and therefore you can proceed and get good marks. In Indian Eco paper, another thing that you can do is you can mention about committees and their recommendations. So if the question is about banking sector reforms, uh, mentioning about Rakesh Mohan committee will really help, because he will know that you've read and you are not just writing things based on your newspaper knowledge. You have actually read about these committees and what their recommendations were. Even if that's not required in the question, in the passing, you can mention these terms, you can mention the names of these committees, or you can link your answer with what these recommendations were. So just these are some tips to enrich your answers. So graphs wherever possible, real life examples wherever possible, simple, and if it's relevant to the question, not unnecessarily irrelevant things. Critical events, if that has happened anytime, some committees and recommendations, names of the economist. I know I'm not asking you to ratify everything, what's the models and the names of the economists. They're very tricky to learn. But I think it's good to quote. So if the question has not mentioned the name of the economist, but the question is actually talking about something specific about a model which a particular economist have given. So writing the name of the economist will really help examiner to know that you know what this topic belongs to. So that will really help and enrich your answer. So that will help, so you can use that. Stick to the word limit. Do not overflow at all. Then uh, close to, for about 10 mark question, you have somewhere around 5 minutes to attempt. 5 minutes for a 10 mark question is maximum. For a 15 mark question, somewhere around 10 minutes is fine. uh, and for 20 mark question, around 12 to 15 minutes, and that's your maximum. So I've seen people in the 20 marks question, they would spend like half an hour, and then you will not be able to complete your answer. So have a time frame in mind. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, that's maximum. Do not go beyond that. Word limit also, 150 words, around 250 words. 20 mark question, I think a maximum is 500 words, but a 350 word answer is fine enough. So that you can do. So these are some general tips that you can follow in terms of maximizing your marks. Then what else? Should I just go topic by topic? I think that will make more sense. I'll just share my screen. So these are some broad topics that your syllabus suggests. Can somebody confirm you're able to see the screen?
Yes, it's visible, Shalini.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Um, so in microeconomics, there are these four broad topics that the syllabus suggests. One is a Marshallian and Walrasian approach to price determination. Then there's alternative distribution theories, which we mostly read in macroeconomics, but they mention because they use microeconomic techniques. So here we mention it in microeconomics. Then there's market structure. There's modern welfare criteria. So the textbooks that you need to refer to in terms of Marshallian and Walrasian approach, this is too broad a topic, although they've just mentioned it in passing and reference. I did not find much of these questions in your, at least in the past 3 years. The questions are primarily with respect to demand and supply, and some concepts about what is a Marshallian approach and what is a Walrasian approach and what is the difference between these approaches. Uh, Beyond that, not much specific questions are there. But I think you need to be prepared for this because this is the foundation. And in the 10-mark question, I see some focus on these particular topics because these are simple questions and they can ask you specifically. So from a textbook version, I think any principle of economics textbook will work. In an undergrad level, Manque is mostly used for a principle of economics, so you can refer to that. Mostly focus on demand and supply questions and tax incidence because the incidence part will also be done covered in the public finance topic. So this can really help you. Holvarian is the other textbook which is primarily from the Walrasian approach. The general equilibrium part, I haven't seen any better textbook as of now. So Holvarian is the textbook that you can refer to, and a lot of topics in Holvarian are, I mean, they don't segregate the topics as such, but you have while reading you will realize that within a particular section they will cover two or three major topics that are relevant for civils. For example, when once you're reading um, the Pareto optimality, there you can see in passing they've mentioned about Pareto improvement, Pareto inferior solutions. They've also talked about how you can get a better solution. They've also talked about ranking, Arrow's impossibility theorem. So all of that is in one chapter, but they're actually separate topics for you for a civils. If you're finding these textbooks difficult, there is an HL Ahuja textbook for microeconomics. I personally haven't read it, so but a lot of people refer to it. So you can have a look at it and see if that works for you. See if this textbook is easier for you to understand, and once you've done your topics from this textbook you can go back and have a just shuffle through these main standard textbooks and see whether you've covered everything and whether anything is left, so that you can do. For distribution theory, uh, I have referred to a book, Goldfeld, but I don't know whether it will be too tough for you, so let me find out some easy read for you. So I'm not suggesting any textbook right now. So this is anyway covered in HL Ahuja microeconomics, I'm told, but I'm not sure about it. So this you can recheck. Market structure, I think, is the most important topic that is going to be covered from the point of view of civils. And I think if you focus a lot on market structure, you will be able to answer close to about two or three questions in your exam. And it's easier to handle topic. It's not very vast as compared to Marshallian and Walrasian approach. This is a much deeper and lengthy topic. Market structure is a very specific topic, easier to do, and more scoring also. So there are answers here would be more binary in nature. So you know that if something is being asked, you know the answer. So it's not a subject. Although it's a subjective question, but you know the answer already. So you just have to explain that answer. So it's easier to handle and a low hanging topic to handle. Rubinfield is one book that most people refer to. It's a little mathematical in nature, uh, uh, but there's no other textbook that I could find better for this. There are some other readings that I had referred to. I'll see if I can share those readings with you for market structure. Um, it's just that you can make some notes about these markets. For each market, they would be not more than 10 pages each, so that's a maximum course. So Monopoly, maximum 10 pages. perfect competition, maximum 10 pages. Monopolistic and oligopoly. Oligopoly, maybe you can have a little more lengthy. So I think maximum to maximum 100 pages would cover your entire market structure and everything that is asked in the civil examinations that you can focus on. Modern welfare criteria. This is a very specific topic. You can refer to Holvarian. I'll just show you something. So in welfare, there is a topic on Arrow's impossibility theorem. So ultimately, during my when I was preparing for this, I made this 2 page note, and I think that covers everything about Arrow's impossibility theorem. So it talks about what the theorem is, what are the 4 conditions that a social decision mechanism has to follow, what according to Arrow does not follow in these conditions, some methods to aggregate majority voting and rank order voting with example. You can read them. What are the assumptions that are not followed, what the final outcome may not be transitive. So what are the problems in this particular method? Similarly for rank order, just a simple example, when will it not satisfy the condition? So this is all. So just a 2 page note will be sufficient for one particular topic. So here I think this topic, modern welfare criteria, is very specific. So pick up any textbook, make your 2 to 3 pager notes, and I think it will be very easy for you to handle this particular topic. It's not tough, and but it will have more direct answers. So this is how you can work on this. In macroeconomics, approaches to employment, income, and interest rate determination, the ISLM part will be covered under the Dornbusch Fisher. It's a very easy to read book. So there are close to about 4 or 5 chapters. So you can read those 4 or 5 chapters, and I think you'll cover everything that is required for civils. There are also chapters in Salvatore that talks about exchange rate, open economy models, so that you can read from Salvatore. But the theory part, in terms of what a Keynesian economics is, what classical economics is, what new Keynesian economics is, and what new classical economists are saying. So there is a textbook which I found really interesting. Although I can't recollect the name of that textbook, Abhay, I'll share that textbook with the name of that textbook with you separately. Somehow I can't recollect the name of that, but it's a brilliant book. I don't think I've found any better book in terms of understanding these concepts from a theory part. And most of the questions in 10 years are focused on the theory part only. So do not go very mathematical here. Just a lot of these books are mathematical, but you just need to focus on the theory and graphs. Graphs are more important in this topic. You need to be able to draw a graph and explain your position, because questions on open economy in terms of what will happen in the at the equilibrium, or what will happen if some exchange rate is changed, or what will happen in a scenario of an appreciation of an exchange rate or a depreciation of an exchange rate. So I think it's better if you are able to draw graphs and diagrams, because that will really enrich your answers, and it will be easier to handle. The question would be easier to handle in such a situation. um, for demand and supply of money, this is a much simpler topic. Uh, Mostly questions are asked about money multiplier. I have always referred to a book called S.B. Gupta. It's a very small textbook, and I think 2 chapters from this textbook are enough. But there are other suggestions also that I've got from some of my friends. I'm not too sure because I haven't seen them. So right now, my suggestion would be this: those 2 chapters from S.B. Gupta. Maybe I'll explore other chapters or explore other books in this regard. For public finance, I would suggest you can read a few chapters from Musgrave and Musgrave. It's the standard textbook for this topic. And a certain part you can read from Principle of Economics, particularly for the incidence of taxation part. So questions are very simple that are asked in civils. If you do not know how to draw a demand and a supply graph and calculate an incidence of taxation, it may be difficult for you to understand public finance. So refer to some principal economics textbook where a demand, supply, and incidence of taxation and deadweight loss kind of concepts are covered. So that will do. You also need to refer to budget documents, because unless you've seen the budget documents yourself, you will not be able to appreciate the kind of changes that has happened in the Indian economy, how plan and non-plan expenditures have changed, or what are different concepts, what are the different documentations you find in the budget documentations. So that you can refer to. There's also a book called H.L. Bhatia. It's an Indian textbook. It's easier to understand. If you think you have very little time, you can focus on this textbook. It will cover most of the parts. It also has certain components of Musgrave and Musgrave. It also has components of incidents on taxation, and it also has budget related discussions. So, if you have less time, I would suggest you can refer to H.L. Bhatia. Um, the next topic about international economics. Here you can, the only book I would refer from my side is Dominique Salvatore. And the kind of questions that have been asked in the last 3 years, they've all been very, very direct from Salvatore book. If you've read this book, I think you'll be able to handle all sort of questions. It's not a very tough book. It's easier to read. You can, I think, close to about first 12 chapters are very, very important in terms of answering these international trade questions. It covers old and new theories. It also covers all of these sorts of tariffs and quotas. It also has a chapter on WTO. It has chapters on balance of payments and exchange rate. So even your macro part can be covered from here. So for international economics, I don't suggest any Indian textbook. I think Salvatore is the one that you can refer to. For growth and development, a lot of models are asked in your question paper. So those models, if you're not from an economics background, I would suggest directly go to Thalwal. So you can find these models directly. You will be able to understand with assumptions and what these models are trying to say. It's easier to handle. Um, if you are from an economics background, do a much uh, high level of studies in terms of Todaro and you can read Todaro and Smith. You can read Debraj Ray. Debraj Ray is also a good textbook that you can refer to. And certain components of international trade, that again Salvatore is the textbook that you can refer to. For planning and economic development, you can any undergrad course, you can look at their reading list and can pick up a few textbooks. I can share one or two textbooks if they are not readily available with me, but I can find out if they are available. Then I can share one or two textbooks. I think those are sufficient for pre-independence. Post-independence, pre-liberalization. Post-liberalization, you will have to do everything online, so you'll have to find new materials. Welfare indicators, measures of growth. Again, I think I'd suggest go online. There's no standard textbook according to me. Environment part also is very simple. Questions are asked in your question, so go online, shuffle, go to Ministry of Environment's website. There are some FAQs given. You can also refer to some of these major conventions. Just the summary part. You don't need to do a detailed analysis on that. Just the summary part and be familiar with the terms. So I think that will be sufficient. Um, for the Indian economy, I think I'll prefer for the Indian economy part, I'll prefer to show you some trend. Um, in the last 3 years, I think the major questions that have come are from post liberalization. They're all very contemporary, they're all very GS kind of questions. If you can see, questions like they are on agriculture, loan waiver, tax on farmers. In manufacturing, they talked about EODV and MSME performance, GST, service sector, banking sector, external sector. So these are all very standard topics in an Indian economy. So all of that. So it's very varied in post-liberalization, and these are all topics that you would anyway be needing for your GS. You would anyway be needing these topics for your interview. So I think for this part. You will have to refer to a lot of contemporary, a lot of latest websites or material that is available online, some of the government documentations, some official papers if they're available, say on GST. So, for this, I do not think that any textbook would be sufficient, although some of the textbooks are available in the market, Mishra and Puri, Datt and Sundaram. At some point of time, you'll find them insufficient, and they change because policies keep changing. So uh, these books will become outdated very quickly for a post liberalization part. So I would suggest read online a lot of material for pre-liberalization and for pre-independence. These are very standard reading lists from any undergrad course in different universities. You can refer to these readings. It will be better if you can read those readings. If not, there are also some books available by Tirthankar Roy, and there's one book available by Tirthankar Roy. There are some readings by Irfan Habib, M. Morris on deindustrialization. So those kinds of readings you can pick up. I'll also see if I can suggest a few, but I think any undergrad course textbooks will work for you in this situation. So here also these questions keep getting repeated. So in pre-liberalization, mostly the question is around planning, GDP, green revolution, and poverty debate. So these are four topics, including the planning part. So this planning part, I think these are the more important topics in pre-liberalization. So in Indian Eco, your topic is going to be very specific for uh, pre-independence and pre-liberalization. Post-liberalization, you'll have to be very dynamic, and which covers the major part of your topic. Just very quickly on the paper one trend, it's if you can cover development economics, international trade, and macro, I think you can cover. Actually, I've covered everything in your syllabus. So these are key important topics, and they actually cover the bulk of your paper, apart from microeconomics. Microeconomics is bulky in terms of the number of questions that are asked. I mean, the questions are asked are very little, but at the same time, the course is much broader. Micro, if you focus on markets, I think that's going to cover a lot of part in your syllabus. For money and banking and finance, they're very specific topics. Do not go beyond those topics. Do not waste your time in doing everything under the sun about these topics. Focus more on these. My suggestion would be to focus more on these 4 5 topics. I think you can cover a bulk of what is required. So I think from the course structure and the readings perspective, this is from my side. Abhay, anything you'd like to add in terms of what I should suggest, or
No,
should?
I think that was great, very methodical and well planned, Shalini. I must say. Now, I think we can straight away take questions from
Yeah.
the people present here if they wish to ask. So from now, whoever wishes to ask a question, you can just type in that you have a question or yes or whatever, so that I know you wish to ask a question, and then I'll call out the name of the person, and you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question. I'll also request if you can put your camera on so that me and Shalini are not speaking to blank screen. It will be useful. And let me tell you before I take the first question that this session is getting recorded. So, with all respect to right to privacy, you must know that when you are on the screen, you will be recorded. So, yes, Hiteshi, hi, Hiteshi, you can unmute and ask your question straight. Don't type in.
Yes, sir. Actually,
Ah, something happened and she has left. I think she clicked the wrong, icon
Yeah,
on the screen.
I think she hit the wrong button.
It looks like a phone. So, okay, anybody else? I'm not looking at people who have written earlier. So you have to type in again if you want to ask a question.
hi, I had a question. How do we differentiate our GS answer and a paper two Indian economy answer? What else should we add as valuation for paper two?
Uh, for paper two, I think you'll have to focus a lot in terms of the models that you've read. So even if it's a question simply about inflation, so if you can mention about Milton Friedman, or you can mention about certain topics or certain recent reports about of RBI. So I think you'll have to enrich your answer somehow to make the examiner believe that you've read economics, and if you can relate it to the existing to whatever is asked in the question, so that'll although in a passing way. I'm not saying you have to digress your answer by focusing more on the theory part, but some mention about model and relating it to the question will really help you distinguish your answer from a GS answer to an answer in an economics optional.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Rhythm, you can ask your question.
Good morning, ma'am. My question was, I was reading the foreign authors book, and it is good for reading the concepts, and I understand the concept better. But while attempting the questions of previous year, I'm not finding the right way to answer them. Especially, there are no questions on the back in the foreign authors book. That's my question. So, how should I prepare the questions from the topics I have read?
Okay, so once you've covered a topic, you need to ask yourself whether you've understood that topic or not. And the best way to answer, I mean, what will happen is that in each topic, you'll see that in the textbooks there are different models available. So one would say something, one will say something else, one is using some other assumption, one is using some other assumptions. So if you are able to distinguish between two or three models, then make a summary of it. I'll just share something else also. I mean, I'm digressing a little, but I think that will really help you. Let me share my screen again. See, I hope you're able to see this. I hope you're able to see this. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So once you've done, for example, once you've done your market concept, are you able to answer certain questions in terms of distinguishing between these models? If you are, then I think you've covered a lot. So in the market structures, number of firms, what different market structures have different kinds of number of firms? What are the action of firms? What is the average size of firms across these market structure? What are the different kinds of products for which these market structure pertain to? What are the barriers to entry in these market structures? What is the power of the firm in these market structures? Can you give some examples of these? Um, is there a non-price competition among the firms across these market structure? So what would the demand curve look like in these market structure? What is a possible consumer demand? What is a profit maximizing point? Who will make profit under these circumstances? Any specific trait that you want to remember about these markets? So I think unless you are able to distinguish between these models, your answer, it means if you're not able to make a table and able to distinguish between these models, then I think you haven't understood the concept in terms of writing the answers. So once you are able to distinguish this, just read the question what they're asking for. They may either want you to distinguish between these models, or they may want you to just focus on one model, or they may want you to go beyond a model and apply it to something and say analyze or criticize or see. I mean, so those kinds of things. So if you understand these particular concepts in a way that you can summarize, that will really help you write your answers by relating it to another model. Even if they're asking of one model and asking you to critically analyze, you also need to mention about the contradictory model that is available, which is using a different set of assumptions. So questions like critically analysis wale jo questions are, you will have to talk about other models also to see what is the alternate approach available. So once you are able to do this, I think then you will be able to write answers in a much better way.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Rhythm. Anybody else who has a question? Shalini, meanwhile, as we had spoken, would it be possible and would it be okay if the aspirants contact you after this session also through some means?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. So I can share my email ID with everybody.
Yeah, you can just maybe type it in there and
in the chat box.
Yeah. And
I'm going to give you my personal email ID. I think that's
that's much better. And I'll request everybody not to spam her. She's very busy.
No, that's okay. So this is my email ID. If you have any specific questions about any specific topic or references, I may not be immediately able to answer that question, but I can definitely reach out to other aspirants and some of my friends who've actually cleared these exams recently. So I think I can come back to you on these more readings and specific questions that you may have.
Okay, great. So I guess we don't have any more questions. People have already started sending their thank you to you. I guess that's for the email actually. So if there are no more questions, then I think we can close. I mean, we're almost time. It's 10:50 as well. So thank you, Shalini. Thank you very much on behalf of everybody. I'm sure it was. I mean, I was listening very carefully because I've never studied economics that way, except the public finance part because of work. So I was the only people I could relate was Musgrave and Mr. H.L. Bhatia and Mankiw. वो थोड़ा सा मैंने भी पढ़ा हुआ है. Other than that, it's all. But anyway, I've always found it interesting. So anyway, thank you, Shalini. Thank you very much. Thank you for doing this. It is very
So
useful.
I'll show some of the documents that I've shown today. So I'll share it to you, Abhay, if you can pass it on.
Yes.
To,
Yes. I'm going to put up, put all this kind of documents for various subjects at one location, and people can access it in a public space.
Sure.
So that's very great. And I must, I think people have also realized the way you have made your notes and methodically you have gone by chapter and topic by topic, and that's very useful. That's how, we always keep telling aspirants make notes, but they always get confused how to make notes. Notes hota kya hai? Book mein likha to wahi sab kuch. So that's a very good demonstration of that. So thank you, Shalini. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Abhay. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, please take care and all the best for your exam. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.